We're back with Alden Chodash of AldenBoxing.com. It was Joe Calzaghe beating Bernard Hopkins last Saturday night on HBO. What do you think about the Calzaghe performance?
Definitely wasn't a great performance, but it was definitely a victory. It was extremely close, narrow. It was a very ugly fight for both fighters, as expressed by the winner, Joe Calzaghe. But he did what he had to do, really. Not the kind of fight that would strike fear into upcoming opponents such as Roy Jones. It's the kind of fight that would bring on many lucrative matches, such as a Jones match, which looks like it may come off. But Calzaghe wasn't at his best. Hopkins didn't allow him. Hopkins fought somewhat of a good fight. He flaunted Calzaghe's offense by hitting and holding, not letting Calzaghe counter until Calzaghe finally timed his punches and began to take the upper hand with his flurries. He could have been given the nod. I wouldn't have been surprised if Bernard got it. It was a close fight. It's not a fight I'd ever want to see again. But it's definitely not the kind of fight that I'd like to see Bernard Hopkins retire off of, because that's just a style that particularly allowed him to look very sloppy on both sides. So it's not a matchup that I'd like to see repeated, but I'd also like to see both guys against good fighters in the future.
Do you really think Bernard Hopkins, if he does fight, can beat a quality opponent at this stage of his career?
He has in his two previous fights against...
But now?
I still think he can. He still won 12 tough rounds against Joe Calzaghe. I mean, he was moving a lot in that fight. He had to maneuver around the ring. He had to hold. He had to open up on plenty of occasions against Joe Calzaghe. And it definitely wasn't a fight that allowed him to conserve his energy, so he showed that he could go 12 tough rounds. And he has shown still has the boxing skill to beat a quality fighter just because of his long experience.
But how do you win rounds when you don't throw punches?
I think it was just a matter of landing the punches against Calzaghe. Calzaghe's style was so awkward. He would punch and then he would pull out, and Hopkins was having a hard time hitting him. And even when Hopkins did, Calzaghe would come back with 3 more. But they're usually much lesser punches than Bernard's are. They're probably open-handed slaps that Calzaghe's throwing, but it led him to victory.
And you think any time during their careers, assuming they were around the same weight level, Bernard Hopkins would have beaten Joe Calzaghe in the past?
I don't know. It would have definitely been another ugly matchup, but it's really a hard one to say because Hopkins really hasn't diminished that much in boxing skill. His style has changed slightly. He's held a lot more in the past, but
he's held more recently than in the past. Yeah,
held more recently than in the past.
Why do you think that is?
I don't think it would have ever been an impressive victory for Hopkins, even if he would have ever beaten Joe Calzaghe. It would have always been a toss-up fight in my mind.
Don't you think he's holding just because he's just too old and he just can't go 12 rounds fighting every second of every round?
No, I don't think he wanted Joe Calzaghe to pick up a rhythm that's been his trademark throughout his career, at least recently.
Okay, now that brings us up to Calzaghe future opponents. First of all, Roy Jones. Who do you think would win that fight?
I think Calzaghe would win that fight also, basically because Roy Jones, as he's shown his last fight in which he won against Trinidad, because of the fact that Trinidad was too old in that fight and too shot from the layoff. Roy Jones just comes in, walks you down, lets you get off your punches, and then opens up. I think Calzaghe would get off his punches, and then he would be out of there. And Roy Jones would have a hard time finding him, and Calzaghe would win the majority of the rounds and beat Jones.
Okay, Kelly Pavlik. Who do you think would win Calzaghe-Pavlik?
Calzaghe would win that fight also because of his better boxing skills and experience. I don't think Pavlik's too experienced against guys that give you those kind of angles.
Okay. Any realistic opponent that you think Calzaghe would lose to at this stage?
I don't see one as yet. Maybe there is some opponents deep into the light heavyweight division that are yet to be developed, but as of right now, the elite, I don't see Calzaghe losing.
But obviously he's only looking for big names at this point of his career. You're saying there's nobody out there, big name, that would give him major trouble?
No. Definitely, excuse me. Yeah, Calzaghe would be given trouble by a couple guys. Roy Jones, his speed, would eventually play a role in that fight. I mean, Roy Jones is still a good fighter. He's just, I don't think he is the fighter that needs to beat Joe Calzaghe right now. but his speed and experience would definitely keep him in the fight. And the same thing with Kelly Pavlik with his punching power would make him a threat throughout the fight.
Okay, this Wednesday you'll be ringside in Hollywood, Florida, when Juan Arango takes on Carlos Wilfredo Vilches on ESPN. Arango should win that one?
Yeah, Arango should win that one. Vilches, the only thing I know about him is that he's a tough veteran. He's been in the ring against Ricky Hatton. And he's fought a lot of different faces, but what I'm seeing from Arango is that he's a strong fighter, and this is the kind of fighter that he should beat. Just a veteran fighter that is kind of accustomed to going to the ring as an opponent for fighters that are on the level of Juan Arango.
Okay, and also on that card, light middleweight clash between Joe Green and Marlon Thomas. Thomas has been very inactive of late, so Joe Green should have no trouble?
Yeah, Joe Green's a good fighter, and he's working his way up. He was an established amateur, and he's a very strong southpaw.
Okay, and on a Friday, it's what looks to be a barn burner. Andre Tsirkon taking on Jesse Feliciano. Who's going to win that war?
That's really a toss-up. I'm leaning slightly towards Jesse Feliciano. He's been in with the better names. He's beaten better fighters, and I think he's a tougher fighter. I think he has more heart than Andre Tsirkon and a better arsenal of punches. But both are warriors. Both can take a great shot. And neither are capable of knocking each other out. So it's going to be a tremendous war, I think, and one of the better Friday Night Fight main events we've seen this season.
Okay, thanks, Alden, for talking to us. Remember to check out aldenboxing.com and fightfan.com for more information. Bye-bye.